Welcome back to Good Morning Vail. Joining me in the studio is Dan Smith of Vail Mountain Rescue. Vail Mountain Rescue is going to rescue you if you get into trouble in the backcountry. But Dan is here for information and education to hopefully prevent that from happening.
Hopefully at the end of this show I'm smarter than I was when I sat down here. I get educated. Yeah, that's what we try to do is when we go through here on a Monday morning, the missions we had during the week, there's usually a learning in each one. Now, we only had 2 last week, one of which we didn't go on. We were paged for it, but it was a avalanche way in another county, and they had a lot of people, so they didn't need us. The other was a couple that rented a snow machine, and they rented unguided, which is never a really good thing to do unless you know what you're doing and know the terrain you're in. And they went up a feature called Machine Gun Ridge up in Camp Hale, and they didn't know there was a cliff on the other side. So apparently they just kept going, and they went over and went airborne. And landed in a pile of snow down at the bottom, but they couldn't get back out. They had probably snowboard boots or something like that on, and there's an art form to walking up 70-degree slopes, and they didn't have the art. So fortunately, Nova got some people down. We had some people up. Fish and Wildlife had some people up. A lot of people were in the area and sort of just gravitated to this scene. So there were an awful lot of people.
How long were they out there?
Oh, probably 2.5 hours.
Okay, hopefully they were dressed for the elements.
Well, the mistake they made is they called the renter Nova Guides, which is fine. I mean, you need to call the people you're renting a snow machine from, but that doesn't trigger the 911 system.
Okay.
If you're going to do that, call 911, because when you call 911, we are highly likely to get a ping on your phone, and we know where you are.
Okay.
If you call your mother in Sheboygan and she calls us, that doesn't help us very much, because we can sure find your mother in Sheboygan, but that's not going to do you a lot of work.
So when the call comes in, walk us through how the mission gets started.
Typically, the person who's in trouble calls in about 80% of the time. This is a sea change from 20 years ago when it was always somebody else who called in. The other 20%, it's a significant other that the person who's lost did it right and said, okay, if I'm not back by X, call 911. They try and tell us where they are. We want to find out if they're injured. We want to find out if they have underlying medical. That all goes to dispatch. Dispatch then puts out a page to our cell phones. Then we have a duty coordinator. It's 1 week out of seven right now. Hopefully soon to be 8. That you've got the duty all week. You then
24/7.
24/7, 365.
Okay.
We don't take days off. As my wife would tell you, we don't take days off. It's interrupted more than one meal. So you find out there's a problem. You try and talk to the person who called in. That works about half the time. About half the time, their batteries died. They've moved to a place where they can't get cell phone service. A number of other things can happen. So about half the time we can talk to them, get more information. About half we can't. So we have to go on what they told dispatch the first time. Or about 20% of the time there's a deputy talking to them in there. When dispatch isn't certain it's a search and rescue, they want a deputy to take a look at it. We find out there's somebody in trouble. We find out some information off the cell phone ping. We want one other piece of information. We want something physical. Their car's at a trailhead. The bus dropped them off at Booth Falls, whatever. So we can match the cell phone ping up against with some notional location. We put out our own page to get manpower in. Generally, it'll be snowmobilers or backcountry skiers or just anybody in the summer for a summer search.
So can we take a quick break and then pick it up from there?
We can pick it up.
You're going to stick around and talk to us a little bit more?
I think I can remember where I am for the next 3 minutes.
Okay, we got to take it over to weather, and then we're going to come back and talk with Dan just a little bit more.